Greetings, friends, fellow citizens, and fellow patriots, and even non-citizens, and welcome to this week's edition of the We the People Convention weekly news and opinion podcast. This is our last show of the new year, of this year of 2025, our last show before the new year, which is coming up next Wednesday. And we sincerely hope that you had a fantastic Christmas. I know out in California, you guys had a lot of rain to deal with, and I was watching that, and I hope you're all okay out there on the West Coast. And then we see that the New York area and New England's getting some snow, so be careful traveling. It's a freezing 32-degree morning as the sun tries to rise here in Ohio as it starts to come up, and we just had a great Christmas. It was just wonderful with our children and grandchildren and relatives, and we hope you had a great time as well. It's very special. Christmas is always special because my wife Nanette is a Christmas baby, Nanette Noel, and this one was extra special because it was her 75th birthday. And we had a great time. We're going to go today and take the grandkids bowling. That's what Nana wanted to do. And so we're going to continue to celebrate her 75th birthday. But, we're just so happy that she's 75 years young. And we're hopeful that, she has many, many more years to watch the grandkids grow up and help us fight the fight for protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So happy birthday, Nan. We love you, and we're just really had a good time celebrating your birthday. So it's going to be a little shorter podcast this week, not because I wanted to make it shorter, but there really just wasn't as much news, this week, and that's a good thing. And I don't know about you guys, but, I always have my eye on, is there going to be a terrorist attack? Is there going to be something, terrible happen? And it's a credit to President Trump and our FBI, DOJ, local police, and all the state officials that so far so good, right? Let's hope that continues all the way through New Year's. Last week I had a story that said that they had stopped a plot for a New Year's bombing in Los Angeles last week, and hopefully there's nothing coming, and that we can enjoy just a wonderful holiday and celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, which is basically a rebirth for all of us, a new beginning, a new chance to restore yourself spiritually and come back to God and to our Judeo-Christian values. And for those of you who are not Christian, that's okay. You don't have to follow Jesus Christ, but you do need to follow our values that our nation is built on. They're basically contained in the 10 commandments, and we're going to have a story about that next. I want to start the podcast though with a story that is perplexing to me because I came across it yesterday, and I think it's real. I don't think it's AI generated. And yet I'm stunned that there's not more coverage of this. But yesterday, Victor Davis Hanson released a podcast that was recorded on Sunday, and they released it the day after Christmas, in which he announces that he's going to have very serious surgery on the 30th, on Monday. And it's on the Daily Wire podcast page. There's comments from people on the page saying, we're praying for you, and I posted on X, please pray for Victor Davis Hanson. So I'm going to play the clip for you. I'm pretty sure it's real, folks. I wish it's not. I hope it's not. But it sure looks like it is to me. So you watch and you decide for yourself.
Well, hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to Victor Davis Hanson in his own words. We are recording on Sunday, December 21st, and I think this episode will be up the day after Christmas. There'll be no Christmas episode. And, Victor has had, and he's explained there's been all kinds of machinations with the schedule, with anticipated procedures and other events.
And you don't have to use a euphemism. I'm having a major operation, and I've got a major problem, and I'm going to have a major effort to solve it, and that's all I can do. And I finally ended up going to the best medical center I think that I know, Stanford Med, and the people there are wonderful, and it'll work out one way or the other.
Well, I don't mean to discount that at all, and of course, you've talked about it. And
I don't want to talk about my own problems, but I've had people call me and say, "You don't look well. You're hoarse or you're coughing." But it's been a 9-month odyssey that the problem I had was very hard to diagnose, so it's no one's fault. And it's been diagnosed through biopsy and everything else, and I'll be fine. At least I'll do my best for everybody, because I think I have an obligation to all of our readers and listeners that I get wonderful letters from and everything. So,
yeah, Victor, there's no question, hundreds and hundreds of comments every week of prayerful people. I just want to apologize, not that there's anything wrong, and it's obviously not for you, that we have anticipated a schedule, and you've come back and said, let's do some more now, when we thought the now wouldn't be here. So,
yeah, what happened, that was good. That was just... there was delays, not anybody's fault. They were just natural. So and diagnoses that were, that made sense at the time, but they weren't the right diagnoses. And now everything has been right, and I'm still hopeful. And there's on December 30th, I'll know after I wake up. So we'll see.
I don't know, guys. That looks real to me, but I can't find any other coverage of it. So let's pray that it's not true. And if it is true, let's pray that Victor Davis Hanson, comes through that operation and can be healed. I say to you that we're at war, and we are at war. And the art of war is to deplete the enemy's resources until they're unable to fight. And what's concerning with this news, if it is true, is that, we've been taking some real shots. I mean, remember, Dennis Prager, was a huge force for many of us, and he's been, taken out because of the fall he had, and, he's trying to come back, but he's been gone. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated to silence him. We had lost, Dan Bongino. Now he's hopefully coming back, which would be helpful to us in 2026. But if you lose Victor Davis Hanson, there's no replacement for these people, and yeah, that doesn't mean you can't win the war. That doesn't mean somebody else doesn't step up. If you read history, that happens all the time. But they won't be Victor Davis Hanson. They won't be Charlie Kirk. They'll be themselves, and they'll have to do it in a different way. But we're really struggling here with some of our top voices, and so we always ask you to pray for President Trump, for his whole team, for all the people that you follow, and trust, and just keep praying, because this is a fight against evil, and we just have to persevere even when we have serious losses. So we'll be praying for Victor Davis Hanson, and hopefully this is just an AI generated hoax, but I just don't think it is. So that's why I shared it with you. Okay, this was not a hoax. This was a real interesting firestorm that I walked into this week, and that I shared with many of you, and many of you saw things about. I had posted this video on our webpage, on our video section of our webpage at wethepeopleconvention.org, of Ohio governor candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's patriotic speech at AMFEST. And to me, it was a patriotic speech. And the speech was basically taken from a New York Times opinion piece that he had written like on Friday, and then he went to the AMFEST and made this speech. And there was a lot of people pushing back on this, and I didn't see it. So at our website, you can watch the full 17-minute speech. You can read the transcript, and I think it's a perfectly good speech. But lots of people didn't. And then there was what I call a political hit job that was done. and that was when the Blaze posted an article. Okay, all I want for Christmas is for Vivek Ramaswamy to stop embarrassing the GOP. This article literally called for Vivek Ramaswamy to drop out of the race in Ohio because they don't like what he's saying in this speech. In this article, I'll quote a little bit of it. Vivek Ramaswamy is a DEI candidate and an unqualified one. Republicans do not vote for unqualified DEI candidates. Historically, they never have. For the good of Ohio, the Republican Party, and MAGA voters nationwide, Vivek Ramaswamy should withdraw from the Ohio gubernatorial race. His candidacy is not merely ill-advised, it's corrosive. At a moment when unity and discipline matter, he threatens to fracture the coalition President Trump assembled and to waste political capital ahead of the 2026 midterms and 2028 presidential cycle, when Ohio native J.D. Vance is widely expected to lead the ticket. All Ramaswamy had to do was remain silent and act like a normal Republican, whatever the hell that is, for 18 months, and he couldn't, said this guy. In the Times op-ed piece, Ramaswamy argued that America is an abstract idea detached from ancestry, history, or continuity, and that descendants of those who built the nation have no greater claim to it than recent arrivals or anchor babies. No one expects Ramaswamy to be a heritage American, but Americans reasonably expect someone seeking to govern them to respect the people whose nation it is. Whose nation it is? What the hell does that mean? Okay? And so I went on a podcast with my good friend Bob France, and I'm going to link to that show where I talk about this in depth, and I talk about some other things. But before, so basically, I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to talk to you about my response to this clip. So let's go right to the clip.
The woke left. Now let me get to the harder part. There's a different vision of American identity that's emergent in certain corridors of the online right. And it says that your identity as an American is based on your lineage. That how long you have been in the country, your lineage and your genetics tied to the blood and soil of the country determines how American you are. It is the idea of a heritage American that says the truest form of an American is somebody who is a descendant of the American Revolution period or before. And I will tell you, this idea of the heritage American, we ought to have this discussion. It's becoming more popular. I think the idea of a heritage American is about as loony as anything the woke left has actually put up. There is no American who is more American than somebody else. The American quality, it's not like the left, they believe in this non-binary stuff. There's no non-binary American. It is binary. Either you're an American or you're not. And you think about it, I could prove this to you. Thank you. I'll take some applause on that. If you really believe in this idea, think about where it leads you. It leads you to believe that Donald Trump is less of an American than Joe Biden because Donald Trump's mother was an immigrant and his grandfather was an immigrant. That doesn't make any sense. Leads you to believe that somehow Bernie Sanders is more of an American than Senator Bernie Moreno from my home state, an America First patriot, because Bernie Moreno was a naturalized citizen from Colombia. It makes you think that Marco Rubio, our great Secretary of State, is somehow less of an American than Elizabeth Warren because she's a Native American, which we all know, right? Doesn't make any sense. It's loony. It's crazy talk. It makes you believe that somehow I am less of an American than the transgender criminal who assassinated Charlie Kirk. We refuse to accept that. The idea that a heritage American is a more American than another American is un-American at its core. And I will fight to the very end for that because that's what it means to be an American. We believe in ideals. That is who we are.
So that's what.
So people were upset about that. Well, I got first thing to tell you, there's no such thing as a heritage American. It's a made-up word, like transgender. Okay? There's no such thing as a heritage American. Go look it up. All right? And yet I had people arguing with me. I mean, it was a firestorm on my X feed because I reacted to the speech and supported Vivek that, listen, my grandparents came over from Europe, from Poland, to come to the United States. And are you saying I'm not as American as someone who came over, his family came over in the Mayflower? That's idiotic. I agree with Vivek Ramaswamy. I defy you to go watch his speech and tell me what you think is wrong with it. For people to take offense, to claim that somehow you're more of American than someone else is a form of bigotry that's just baffling to me. And guess what? It's all intentional. This is all about attacking MAGA, breaking us up. Whether it's the whole thing with Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and what's her name, Owens, and Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin about Israel, or now it's just Heritage American nonsense. I had people on my post actually saying, well, a Heritage American is somebody whose family has been here for at least 2 generations. Who appointed you to set the rules? Why isn't it 3? Why isn't it 1? Because it doesn't exist. It's an idiotic argument. And you heard the applause that he got at AMFEST, right? So here's the bottom line, kids. This is a hit job. This is the combination of the communist left and the RINO Republicans that hate Trump, hate MAGA, and trying to get rid of Vivek. And I'm gonna explain it to you. For those of you who aren't from Ohio, this will be interesting to you. From those who are from Ohio, who've been with me in the Tea Party movement for 16 years, you're not going to be surprised by any of this. But here's the story. Well. The RINO Columbus cartel could not sabotage Vivek and the Ohio grassroots MAGA patriots by putting Lieutenant Governor and former OSU football coach Jim Tressel on the ballot in the primary like they wanted to do to use Jim Tressel, okay, to get Democrats to vote for Jim Tressel because they love him as a football coach in the Republican primary. We stopped that. So now they start this organized campaign to smear him to try and destroy his base in Ohio. And you just saw it play out on my X feed. The commercial fisherman, which this story in The Blaze was written by a commercial fisherman, don't you know, and political writer, who wrote the piece of garbage, doesn't know anything about Ohio, or he would never have said something so utterly laughable as to suggest that Ohio is a solid red state. Politically, when every patriot in Ohio knows for a fact that the RINO Columbus cartel would always want a Democrat to win instead of a true Republican that they can't control. That's just a fact. We've learned this in the Tea Party all along. If we've got a good Republican that they can't control, they will help the Democrat win. As demonstrated by Ohio Governor DeWine just saying that he was withholding his endorsement of Ramaswamy, even though the Ohio Republican Party endorsed Vivek for governor last May. Governor DeWine, who said back then that he would endorse the Republican nominee, is refusing to do so. DeWine actually said that the Democrat governor candidate, Amy Acton, who was his architect of destruction against Ohio patriots during COVID, should not be held accountable for DeWine's assault on our constitutional rights. He wants Amy Acton, the Democrat, the lunatic loser. I mean, you think Kamala Harris is stupid? Yeah, Amy Acton's right there with her, okay? He wants her to be governor. Let's see. Yes, the Ohio RINO Columbus cartel, not to be confused with the Ohio Republican Party, by the way, and its members who are solidly behind Vivek, because I'm telling you right now, Vivek has spoken in all 88 counties. He's been all over this state this year. Every time it's standing room only. It's sold out. He draws huge crowds, and yet on my X feed, there's all kinds of people saying, he has no base in Ohio. People hate him in Ohio. Shut up. You don't know a damn thing about Ohio because you're a paid assassin who're trying to assassinate Vivek's character. Let's see here. The Ohio RINO Columbus cartel would rather have insane and incompetent Democratic joke of a candidate, Amy Acton, as governor than MAGA patriot Vivek Ramaswamy. The Ohio swamp, which is at least as deep as the D.C. swamp, let me tell you, will do anything to stop Vivek from coming in and reforming Ohio's horrible state government because, like Trump, Vivek does not need them. He can fund his own way. All right? I have posted Vivek's 17-minute AMFEST speech on our website, wethepeopleconvention.org, video section, for you to review, along with the transcript. Watch it yourself and see what a lie this hit piece is in the blaze. And then you can see why these comments being put on social media are a hit job. Nothing in politics is an accident. There's no coincidences in politics. This came up right before the filing deadline in Ohio, which is, February, whatever, right when Vivek's got to pick his lieutenant governor, I'm expecting next week. Oh, suddenly this story, pops up. We the people are not fooled and will support Vivek against these lies and elect him as our first non-RINO governor in November of 2026. That was my response to that, okay? So just understand that our enemies are not just the communists and the Marxists and this, the globalists and the left. They're also the John Kasichs, the Lex Wexners, the Mike DeWines, the people, the Lincoln Project who claim to be Republicans who've been trying to get Trump forever. All right? So just understand that's what's going on. Now, I'm gonna post this for you, and I'm gonna ask you guys for some prayers. Okay, now I told you I was on with Bob France. He has a new podcast, and I went on to talk about not just Vivek, but about the 2026 elections and what is going on here in Ohio and what I think is going on here, going on in the rest of the country and in your state. I'm going to link to that podcast because a lot of people are writing to me saying they really learned a lot and it was very informative. But I have to tell you that I've been praying all year, trying to understand what does God want me personally to do and what does God want us as an organization to do in 2026. And I had, at the start of this year, after we elected Trump last year, and I said, this is kind of a new time. I've got to look at some other things. I had a bunch of really good ideas, things that I worked hard at, that I thought, well, this is what I should do. This is what I should do. And none of them would take root. And I've been here before because that's God telling me that's not what I'm supposed to do. If it was supposed to happen, God is great. It would happen. If I'm supposed to have 1 million viewers to this podcast, I'd have them tomorrow. God could do that in an instant. I don't have 1 million viewers. I don't know why. But I accept that that's God's decision. That doesn't mean I don't work hard to make it the best podcast I can. But you understand what I'm saying? You have to trust in God's plan and then play your role. I'm telling you that something really big is happening. And I think it's going to break in the next week or so. And I need your prayers. I really do. I need you to help me because this is maybe the biggest challenge I've ever taken on, and it's going to be a huge commitment, for Nan and I, just physically, mentally, emotionally, but it's something I'm excited about, and it's what happens at these times. When again, for you guys who don't know us at all, you're new to this podcast, go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the little icon that says, learn about the WTPC, and you'll learn about things like how we saved fracking in this country. This organization, literally saved fracking. Okay? Most of you don't know anything about that. How we, elected Trump. How we defeated Obama when they attacked the Tea Party. We've done major things. And that's, what those who are new don't know, but you can learn there. And every time I've been in this position, it's like I'm in the fog and all of a sudden it clears and I have a vision of what's going to happen next like it's a movie that's already been made. I can see every step of the way. And I'm having that right now. That happened in 2016 when we were here in Ohio, and people forget that John Kasich won the Ohio Republican primary, not Donald Trump. And then when Donald Trump won the nomination for president under the Republican Party, John Kasich wouldn't even go to the convention that was in Cleveland, Ohio. And they were telling us, the polls were saying Hillary Clinton was winning Ohio by 16%. And the Republican Party was intentionally sabotaging him. There was no Trump materials in the Republican victory centers when Donald Trump was the presidential nominee. Yeah. And I met in a dilapidated Arthur Treacher's in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, with a guy named David Conte from the NRA. And I said, Trump's never going to be president if he doesn't win Ohio. We've got to win Ohio. It's up to you and I, Dave. If the NRA, no pun intended, will give us the weapons, I'll recruit the Army. The weapons were, back then, there was no texting. It was phone calls. It was walk lists that were paper. And I don't even know if we had the iPads and stuff then. And this organization recruited an army. We made more phone calls than were ever recorded in the history of the NRA. And when they kept telling us Trump's losing, we did our own polling. And we knew Trump was winning because we knew we were doing the work from the win. And we knocked on the doors. I saw that when I sat in that dilapidated Arthur Treacher's. God had just put the vision in my head. I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly how to do it, and I knew we were going to win. And we did. I'm there right now. I'm in that space right now. I don't know what God's final decision will be. But boy, the clues are really, really big. And so if you watch that podcast that I did with my friend Bob France, you'll get a clue what I'm talking about. But please, keep me in your prayers over the rest of the holiday, and then hopefully we'll have some pretty big news for you after the new year, okay? Okay, so I'm going to wrap this part of the podcast up. I know I took a little extra time there, but I think it was important, and I appreciate you giving me that time. Okay, so now let's get on with other news that was going on this week. This is a huge story. Fulton County 2020 election bombshell. This is just really, a case study in how a deeply unpopular political party managed to win elections. Because you and I know that the Democrats, their popularity, I showed you last week, their popularity is down to 18%. It's a fraud. They've been stealing elections your whole life, my whole life. And again, when we took the ad in the Washington Times that said Trump should declare temporary limited martial law and have a recount of the 2020 election in all 50 states for the federal election with photo IDs and in-person voting only, people said, well, why would you in all 50 states? Just do the close states, the swing states. I said, no, because they're cheating everywhere, and they have been forever. And so this Fulton County story is basically the proof we've been looking for. If you have struggled to find any reason to support the Democratic Party, you are by no means alone. A new Quinnipiac poll revealed last week that 73% of voters disapprove of the way Democrats in Congress are handling their job. Yet somehow, the party candidates managed to outperform in 2024 margins in all 5 House special elections this year. Wow! How did that happen? How did they work this miracle? One clue can perhaps be found in the recent revelations about election irregularities in Fulton County, Georgia. During a recent hearing of the Georgia State Election Board, an attorney for the county admitted that 315,000 illegal certified votes were included in the final results of the 2020 election, giving Georgia to Joe Biden when it never should have gone to Joe Biden and would have changed the outcome of the presidential election. The gory details of the skullduggery were first reported by Brianna Lehman in The Federalist last week on the same day the Quinnipiac poll was released. The facts, which are no longer in dispute, throw a white-hot spotlight on the urgent need for Republicans in Congress to pass a national election integrity law, even if it means killing the filibuster. We've been talking about that. I've been asking you to call your congressman and say, we need to kill the filibuster. We need to pass our agenda. Let's see, that the president can sign into law well before the 2026 midterms, meaning this national election integrity law. The facts also vindicate Trump's assertion during his frequently misrepresented telephone call with Georgia's feckless, he wasn't feckless, he wasn't Judge Raffensperger, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, he wasn't feckless. He wanted Trump to lose. He's running for governor right now. He should be in prison. He should be in prison. Because he could have investigated, and he didn't. The frequently misrepresented telephone call with Roethlisberger that an audit of Fulton County's ballots would easily disqualify far more than the 11,779 vote margin that decided the state's election. Here is what Trump said for those who forgot or never knew. He said in the phone call, in Fulton, where they dump ballots, you will find that you have many that aren't even signed and have many that are forgeries, okay? You know that. You know that, Brad. You have no doubt about that, and you will find you will be at 11,799 within minutes because Fulton County is totally corrupt, Trump said, and so is she totally corrupt. And they're going around playing you and laughing at you behind your back, Brad. Whether you know it or not, they're laughing at you. And you've taken a state that's a Republican state, and you've made it almost impossible for a Republican to win because of cheating, because they cheat like no one's ever cheated before. That's what he said. And now the proof comes out. They cheated. Raffensperger ignored the president. As Georgia's chief election official, it was his duty to ensure that Trump's concerns about Fulton County ballots were investigated, and they didn't do it. But the Constitution gives Congress the last word on how to conduct elections. And what we're saying here is we need to get rid of the filibuster and pass laws that make this impossible happen. The Constitution says that the Congress can pass laws that say the time, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations. See, they keep claiming it's states' rights, but it's not. The Constitution says they can change it. Well, now is that time. In addition to restoring Election Day as the final deadline for receiving ballots and prohibiting non-citizens from registering to vote, Congress must eliminate no excuse mail-in voting as well as ballot harvesting. Finally, early voting must be limited to a maximum of 2 weeks prior to Election Day. Well, I'm happy to say in Ohio, the House and Senate passed a bill that says you can't bring in, we used to allow 4 days after the election for mail-in ballots to arrive, and DeWine actually signed the bill after our members, called him and demanded he sign it, that it's now, if it's not in on election day, it doesn't count. So we're doing these things. But this is the thing that's starting to break. You're going to see the year 2026, you're going to see all the election fraud evidence start to come out. And this Fulton County thing was a big, big deal. And so I posted this story for those of you who get our emails and texts. If you don't get them, go to wethepeopleconvention.org, run on the front page, sign up, because there's breaking news all the time. And this story was just the news. Ex-FBI agent says conspiracy charges against deep state actors is a slam dunk. A slam dunk. Well, what does he mean? Well, a retired FBI agent who assembled major crime cases for years says Attorney General Pam Bondi has a slam dunk conspiracy case to prosecute former federal agents and prosecutors for election meddling and relentless pursuing Donald Trump for political purpose while protecting prominent Democrats like Hillary Clinton in the face of damning evidence. Jonathan Gillum, a retired FBI agent, and Navy SEAL, told the Just the News show that Trump should name a justice czar to coordinate both prosecutions and policy fixes after documents turned over to Congress by Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel show that FBI agents were repeatedly thwarted for pursuing corruption allegations against Clinton and her family foundation. Okay? That's true. And he said, I think this really does lead to bigger charges such as conspiracy to overthrow an election. I would say potentially treason. If you could put that in there, but definitely it's sedition, he added. They could charge these people with sedition, and I think they will. I think that's what's coming. Gillum suggested the Justice Department treat the key players accused of weaponizing law enforcement and intelligence powers just like a drug cartel or mafia family. This is a group of people that continues to come up in one case of building cases against Trump, falsifying information. But now it shows that the same people were conspiring to do a second overall crime, a second conspiracy to protect the political candidate they agreed with. I mean, honestly, if it were a mafia case and we had this clear cut of an example of a group of people committing 2 or more crimes for the furtherance of their political group or their enterprise, this would be a slam dunk case for any U.S. attorney. So I think this is something that they should look at. Now, you can watch his interview. There's a video there at WeThePeopleConvention.org and hear what he has to say. But that was encouraging to me because I think that's what's really going on. It's coming. I know you're frustrated, but we just got to hang in there because it is coming. Many of you were upset, and some of the complaints about Vivek Ramaswamy is that he defended H-1B visas, okay? But Trump, basically said that we're going to change that. And so he signed an executive order putting America first this holiday. Trump just ends random work visa lottery. Rule change aimed to protect Americans from workers from low wages and poor conditions. The Trump administration, Department of Homeland Security, is changing regulation governing work visas. On Tuesday, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service announced that the DS should implement a new rule to change H-1B recipient selection process, ending the current random lottery system in favor of prioritizing those with higher skills. As part of the Trump administration's commitment to H-1B reform, which you and I have been screaming about and fighting for, we will continue to demand more from both employers and aliens so as not to undercut American workers and to put America first. Okay? They're trying, they're listening, right? We made it, Steve Bannon's been beating the drum about H-1B visas, and they did something. So I think that's good. Then he did this, right? When the guy, the shooter at Brown University, when they found out that he came in under a visa that was a lottery visa, they're stopping that. What is the diversity visa lottery that Trump suspended? President Donald Trump, on December 18th, ordered the suspension of the Diversity Immigration Visa Program, the same program that granted entry to the United States to the suspect in the recent mass shooting at Brown University. A citizen of Portugal, his last name was Valente, on December 13th, allegedly shot and killed 2 students at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. The Brown University shooter entered the United States through the Diversity Lottery Immigration Visa Program in 2017 and was granted a green card. This heinous individual should never have been allowed in the country, wrote Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem on social media on December 18th. At President Trump's direction, I am immediately directing all U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to pause the program to ensure no more Americans are harmed by this disastrous program. Okay? Again, too late, but still action, right? And this is what this Trump administration is always about, is action. Why? Because we have this horrible mess that the left, starting with Barack Obama and even before that with the Clintons, have done to our country. They've destroyed our institutions. They brought in these people to wreak havoc, to kill us, to kill Americans with drugs, with crime, with all kinds of financial things. And we're trying to fight it on all fronts. And what's the left doing? They're fighting Trump, who's trying to save our nation. So this was a setback, I thought, when it first came. SCOTUS rules Trump can't deploy National Guard troops to Chicago. And I was surprised by this because they have agreed with Trump on all the other National Guard deployments in LA and stuff. The Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that the Trump administration can't send National Guard troops to quell violence in the streets of Chicago amid federal immigration raids. The Trump administration asked the High Court to give the federal government the authority to send in troops, while the pushback from Democrat Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said you can't do that. The 6-3 decision largely hinged on whether the circumstances on the ground in Chicago can be controlled by regular forces. Justice Sam Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch dissented in the 6-3 decision. Now, what's interesting on this is they said that phrase regular forces. Well, basically what the Supreme Court is saying is that President Trump could send in the 101st Airborne like the Truman, I guess it was, and Eisenhower did in Little Rock. That those are, if they can't quell it, then he can call out the National Guard, but he can't call out the National Guard first. So this wasn't as big of a setback as I thought it was, but here's the bottom line. Why do they want to stop him? Why? Because the Democrat Party is communist controlled. Their goal is to destroy our cities. Their goal is to wreak havoc on our nation. And as you're seeing in Minneapolis, we'll talk, in Minnesota, we'll talk about Walz here in a minute. The goal is to steal us blind, to steal billions of dollars, to make you work harder and harder and harder and pay more and more and more taxes. But, do you notice how there's never enough? And now we're seeing it's all being stolen. It's being stolen. And our elected officials and our damn RINOs are part of the cartel. They're the criminals. They're letting it do it. They let the NGOs get all the money. They funded USAID. They took money from Big Pharma. And we're trying to fight this. And it's a big deal. So they don't want Trump to send troops in to Chicago because they saw what happened in Washington. And then this story just fell off the news because they don't want you to know. But you know, because I sent out a text and an email about this. But Memphis is a huge success story. You heard about it when they went in and there was no news coverage. Crime crackdown in Memphis is a huge success the national media ignores because they don't want you to know and they sure don't want you to tell anybody. But you're going to share this story with people so they know. If you go to WeThePeopleConvention.org, you can go to this story, click on it, and then we have these share links on the pages where you can email the link to the story or text it to friends and say, you got to see this, or put it on your social media. Authorities operating under the Memphis Safe Task Force have recorded over 4,000 arrests since the initiative launched less than 3 months ago. The U.S. Marshal Service, the head agency of the Memphis Safe Task Force, announced that the number of arrests made since the initiative launched in the city on September 29th surpassed the 4,000 mark earlier this week. As of Monday, authorities have made over 4,081 arrests, including 401 gang members, seized 629 firearms, and substantial quantities of narcotics and related contraband, locating 123 missing children and executing more than 1,800 arrest warrants. Data by the city of Memphis shows, now get this, data by the city of Memphis shows that the number of murders during the same duration of time last year are down 42.5%. Murders are down by almost half. Robberies are down by 60%. Sexual assaults are down by 45%. Motor vehicle thefts are down by 69%. And aggravated assault are down 40% from the beginning of the task force operation through Wednesday. You think that doesn't make a difference in the lives of the people of Memphis, Tennessee? These people are now locked up, unlike with the Dems and the Soros-appointed DAs, where if you arrested these people, they'd be back out on the street tomorrow. Yeah, these guys, they ain't going to be back on the street. A lot of them are getting deported, okay? That's what they don't want you to know. That's what you need to know, all right? That's what you need to tell others about because they're covering up Trump's success. So that people will say, oh, I don't like the way Trump's handling his the presidency. Yeah, share those stories. We'll find out. And then, this is the story of 2026. I think it really is. Trump administration vows unprecedented deportation surge in 2026 with a $170 billion boost from the big, beautiful bill. Workplace raids and record removals is what you're going to see. The Trump administration is gearing up for an unprecedented surge in deportations, armed with $170 billion in new funding, plans to hire thousands of additional agents, and renewal focus on workplace raids. The report says Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, will start, hitting the streets literally at the start of the new year. The new funding represents a substantial increase over the agency's combined annual budget of $19 billion. So from $19 billion, the budget's going up to $170 billion. You think there's going to be more deportations? You think if you take that being, like how many times greater? 10 times greater than what it was before? How about if we got 2.5 million out this year? 10 times greater would be 200 million, or excuse me, 20 million. 20 million. 2 million this year, 2.5 times 10 is 25 million people. That's what Trump's doing. He's serious. And you need to look at this because the one thing they're going to do different is they're not just going to go and arrest the people. They're going to go into the businesses that hire them. And they're going to start arresting business owners who illegally hire illegals and not Americans. That's the big change that's coming. Now, we're going to see how this affects the Hispanic vote. Because as you know, the Hispanic vote is in the tank right now, okay, for Trump. Why? Because the news is saying they're just grabbing anybody. They're not criminals. They're citizens, and they're deporting them. That's a lie. That's a lie. They're not deporting anyone that's not here illegally. And guess what? If you're here illegally, you're a criminal. So the news media is trying to tell you, these aren't criminals that Trump's arresting, because they're saying criminals are drug dealers and gang members. Criminals are people broken in the country illegally. That's the point. That's where the confusion is coming, the intentional confusion is coming. That's what you need to straighten out. All 20 million or however many Biden let in, because how do we really know, right, need to go. Why? It will make our housing costs cheaper. It will make our medical costs cheaper. It will make our education costs cheaper. Do you understand? It was an assault on you, on our economy. And now Trump's got to fix it. And you know what? That's what you and I voted for, wasn't it? That's what we voted for. The border sealed. Second part was they got to be out. He's going to take them out. He's going to take them out. And then I think you get more people who are for that when you get the exposure of what the Somalis did in Minnesota, where now it's up to, $9 billion or $18 billion. And then they're in Maine, and now we're seeing it in other states, and then we're seeing what's going on in California. Every damn Democrat blue state mayor and governor has been stealing us blind. They need to go to prison. And it's just not us saying it. This is a great story. Nearly 100 Minnesota mayors warned in no-nonsense letter that Tim Walz is leading to the state to fiscal disaster. Okay? In this episode of Try to Control Your Shock and Amazement, there's no doubt that Minnesota Governor and erstwhile Democrat vice presidential candidate Tim Walz is, shall we say, different. And if you're like me, you're still shudder at the mere thought of what would have become of the country we love if the equally brilliant Kamala Harris had not been decisively mauled by President Trump in last year's election. Apparently, a group of 100 Minnesota mayors have already learned. So 98 mayors across Minnesota have sounded the alarm in a no-nonsense letter to Walz and state lawmakers, blistering the state's fiscal mismanagement. The distraught mayors warned that what was once an $18 billion surplus in Minnesota's government has not only vanished under the far-left governor's watch, the surplus has been replaced by a projected $3 billion deficit for the 28-29 budget cycle. The mayor went bottom line, warning the Walz policies have strained their cities, harmed their residents, and pushed Minnesota down in national economic rankings. Evidence, they say, of the state's governor racing headlong toward fiscal disaster. In the letter, it states in part, fraud Unchecked spending and inconsistent fiscal management in St. Paul has trickled down to our cities, reducing our capacity to plan responsibly, maintain infrastructure, hire and retain employees, and sustain core services without overburdening local taxpayers. There is growing disconnect between state-level fiscal decisions and the strain they place on cities we lead. When the state expands programs or shifts responsibilities without state funding, it is our residents, families, seniors, businesses, and workers who ultimately bear the cost. It's intentional, folks. They're not just incompetent, they're evil. You're fighting evil. How did Tim Walz ever become governor? I guarantee you they cheated. I guarantee you. So when Harmeet Dilling is suing to make every state submit their voter rolls to get all the illegals off, when the Trump administration is getting rid of the Social Security numbers that the Biden administration gave to millions of illegal immigrants so they could get driver's license and vote and stuff, these are the things that we've got to do to make sure we don't just win in 2026. We destroy our enemy. We deplete them of the resources they need to continue to fight. They will have no money. They will have no candidates. They will win no elections. We don't want to hold the House and hold the Senate. We want to destroy them. We want to win 50 seats in the House. And we want to get to 60 or more in the Senate. And you know what? When the Supreme Court rules in June about the illegal racial gerrymandering in all these blue states that's been going on for decades because no one had the guts to challenge it. And guess what? When they rule that that's wrong, there'll be 19 more House seats that we can redistrict. And if you flip 19 from them to 19 from us, that's 38 seats. Yeah, I call that a start. Okay? I call that a start. Okay, going to take a break here for just a couple minutes to catch my breath. I hope you enjoyed the first half of the podcast. I hope you got caught up on some news you weren't getting, during the break. I know, you're busy doing other things. That's why you watch this show, because it's a weekly update. You don't have to watch the news every day. You can come here and pretty much find out what the heck's going on in one podcast. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back. You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion weekly podcast, and my name is Tom Zawistowski.
When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button. And if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little, download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. What, something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. If you click there, this is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble. And it's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share this whatever you see, if you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. If you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People Convention site, and that you get more people to look at it, because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday, so if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday, and in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot.
The We the People Convention News and Opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org, or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. All right, and we're back, and we do want to thank all of our donors to the We the People Convention. I usually do that in the beginning of the show. I'm sorry, it slipped my mind, but we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. And I know everyone can't donate, so you guys who don't donate, don't feel bad. Things are tough for a lot of people. They're going to get a lot better in 2026. But we have people who've been giving to us for 16 years. And since we were the Portage County Tea Party, and then we were, the Ohio Liberty Coalition, and then we were the We the People Convention. And so many of you give so generously. And we just can't thank you enough. If you have the wherewithal to donate, we'd appreciate it. I know at the end of the year, lots of you make donations to various groups because you can get a tax deduction if you give to a 501c3. We are not a 501c3. Your donations to us are not tax deductible because we were attacked by Barack Obama and the IRS, and they wanted us to give all of our donors' names to them. And we were not going to do that. We went and fought them in court for 6 years, so we didn't have to do that. And so when we incorporated the We the People Convention, we took a different route. We are what's called, in Ohio, we are called a taxable nonprofit. What does that mean? That means that when you donate, you can't write it off in your taxes. But also, you can be assured no one will ever know that you donated to the We the People Convention. And when I say taxable nonprofit, what that means is your donation looks like income to us. We file an 1120 or 1120, I think it is, or 1020, form for corporations for our taxes. And if we bring in more money than we spend, we have to pay taxes on it. And I'm okay with that to protect your privacy. Okay, now that rarely happens because basically we spend whatever we take in and probably a little more, unfortunately. And so, that's the way it is. But if you can donate, if you're looking to really help the cause in 2026, we certainly would appreciate it if you go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the donate link right on the front page, or just, send it to the P.O. Box. We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. Okay? We appreciate your donations, and we appreciate all of you who watch this podcast and share it. And that's what it's really all about. And then, as you know, I ask you to do things like I asked you for your prayers for us, for me this week, okay? And I'll ask you some other things in the podcast. And so that's the third thing you need to do. You need to share this podcast with others. You need to act on our action items each week, which are on our podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org. Take the actions I lay out for you every week. And I said, to call your congressman about the filibuster. That was another action. That's how you protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, right? And then if you can donate, donate. Okay? Thank you so much to all of you who make this organization what it is. you've done a lot. You've saved our nation. And if those of you who think that I'm being braggadocious or whatever, just go to WeThePeopleConvention.org and click on the section learn about the We the People Convention, because we did save our nation. All right, so let's get going here with the rest of the news. I usually start the second half with some foreign news, and there was some foreign news this week, starting on Christmas Day. Trump orders U.S. strike on ISIS in Nigeria on Christmas Day to save Christians. Okay? And I posted on X that Trump never misses a chance to add symbolism to his actions. I mean, get this. Trump orders a strike on Muslims, ISIS Muslims, in Nigeria on Christmas Day to save Christians. And you know what? I put that up, and then yesterday, after Christmas, Trump confirmed they were going to bomb them on Wednesday, and Trump said, no. I want to send them a Christmas present. He literally said that. U.S. President Donald Trump announced a powerful and deadly strike targeting the ISIS terrorist group in the northwest region of Nigeria on December 25th. Trump said on Truth Social the terrorist target had been viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. He said the group had not heeded warnings leading to the Christmas night strike. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they do not stop the slaughter of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. He ain't messing around. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many, if their slaughter of Christians continues. That's strong stuff. And that's just not words, man. Those are actions, and maybe that's why there hasn't been a lot of bombings and things around the world this Christmas. Peace through strength is kind of a real deal, right? Kind of a real deal. But that was really something to see. And oh, by the way, just so you know, it's not like Trump is just out bombing countries, okay? For those of you guys who are like, oh, this is crazy that Trump would do this. A Pentagon spokesman told the Epoch Times that the Nigerian government approved the strikes. The Department of War worked with the government of Nigeria to carry out these strikes. These strikes were approved by the government of Nigeria, which doesn't have a military, doesn't have the money to fight these Islamist terrorists. That's the problem. The Islamists are getting money from Iran, right? Just like Hezbollah, just like Hamas. And Trump treated them just like Hezbollah and Hamas. There is kind of maybe big news that just slipped in on Friday that I didn't see until the last second. Zelensky from Ukraine will meet with President Trump on Sunday, tomorrow, at Mar-a-Lago. Representatives from Zelensky's public relations and media team have confirmed to various news outlets that Ukraine president will be meeting with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Sunday to discuss the latest five-segment draft document organized by negotiators. The meeting between Zelensky and Trump come after several days of negotiations between a Ukrainian delegation, Trump emissaries, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, over the Christmas holiday. Unnamed Ukrainian officials confirmed access to the meeting would take place. The meeting will come 1 week after Russian negotiators and U.S. officials met in Miami to hammer out details on a peace plan. Zelensky on Wednesday unveiled a 20-point peace plan agreed upon during that meeting, which would provide strong NATO-style security concessions for Ukraine in exchange for land concessions to Russia. So there's a deal maybe being worked out. Zelensky added that the meeting will focus on security guarantees, management of nuclear power plants in Ukraine, territorial controls of Donbass, and eastern territories claimed by Moscow. He said, first of all, we're working on several documents every day. We want to talk about a few nuances of security agreements. In my opinion, I see now that the agreement between us and the United States is almost ready. Zelensky said, we'll see how the meeting goes. Who knows? Do we get peace? Do we get peace in Ukraine before the end of the year? I don't know, but at least Trump's people are working. They're not just conceding. And Zelensky said that they may have the Europeans, zoom in on the thing if things get going, and that it would be a treaty signed by 4 parties: Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and EU and US. So there'd be four people, 4 entities signing this. I think that's what's going to take. So maybe keep that in your prayers on Monday. We're praying for Victor Davis Hanson, and we're praying that video I played for you is not true, but if it is, that he survives his operation, and then we'll pray for peace in Ukraine, because boy, it's like Trump says, we got to stop the killing, we got to stop the dying. It's terrible. This was good news because, again, what is this all about? What is everything about? Everything. What's going on, you name it, in Venezuela, in South America, in Europe, these Boca Raton people. What is it all about? It's about China wanting to rule the world. That's what it's about. We are fighting the Chinese, who are funding all these operations in an attempt to overthrow our power in the world. And we're fighting back. So this is something that you talk about long overdue. CCP cries discrimination as Trump's FCC bans foreign-made drones as a security threat. Really? Chinese drones, which dominate like 98% of all the drones you own that you bought at the hobby shop or whatever, because they're really cool and they fly really well. Yeah, they have chips in them that send all the video you record and stuff to the Chinese. They're spy drones. That's what they are, okay? So, wow, it's shocking that we just made them illegal. The Federal Communications Commission announced a ban on new foreign-made drones, including those from Chinese manufacturers DJI and Autel, citing national security concerns. They announced on Monday the decision to ban the new drones, including those manufactured by them. The move follows a review mandated by the defense bill passed in 2022. Geez, this is going to be 2026. And 2022, they passed this bill that raised concerns about the national security risks posed by Chinese-made drones. How come you're not going to make everybody take their Chinese-made drone to some facility where they can have whatever spy capabilities they have removed? Oh no, let's just leave millions of Chinese-made drones in the United States to fly over every part of our country. Yeah, that's a good way to defend yourself during war. The FCC stated that all drones and critical components produced in foreign countries pose unacceptable risks to national security. However, exemptions may be granted for specific drones or components that the Department of War, Department of Homeland Security determines they do not pose such a risk. It's just like, we let this happen. Who thought that was a good idea? What government official, what FCC people before, what people in police departments and stuff thought, yeah, let's buy those Chinese drones because they're cheaper and yeah, they wouldn't spy on us. Wow. While this is going on, and like I said, a lot of this is playing out in South America, right? Because under the Biden regime, they gave the Panama Canal to the Chinese. They allowed the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians to move into Colombia and Venezuela and Argentina and everything. We were losing South America to China. Oh, no threat there to have them in our hemisphere and just much closer to attack us than coming all the way from China. Oh, but, let's not do anything to stop that. Let's fight the Russians in Ukraine. That's a real threat to us, not those Chinese that are taking over every country in South America. So Trump, is beating on Venezuela, right? The goal is to get Maduro out of there and bring in the woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize, who's a big Trump supporter, make her president, so we can get the Chinese out. And by the way, we're blockading their tankers. And Russia and China and Iran all said, don't worry about the money. We'll keep you going, Maduro. Just hang in there. Trump ain't going to let him hang in there. So it was good news to get another victory in Honduras. Trump-backed Asfora wins Honduras presidential election. The announcement comes after weeks of protests, delays, and fraud claims. Nasser Asfora, a conservative supported by President Donald Trump, was declared the winner in Honduras' presidential election on Wednesday following controversies surrounding the electoral process. The National Election Council said Asfora won with 40.3% of the vote, defeated center-right Liberal Party candidate Nasrallah, who secured 39.5%. So it's 40.3 to 39.5. His victory comes after weeks of delays following the November 30th vote, with about 15% of the tally sheets necessitating manual counts due to technical issues. Ha! Yeah, you think? Technical issues? So let's take inventory, right? Since Trump was sworn in, not even a year ago now, because remember, it's January 20th, so it's like 11 months, right? What do we got? We got this Asfora guy in Honduras who had a direct Trump endorsement. We got Jose Antonio Cost in Chile, who Trump endorsed, who won just recently. Rodriguez Paz in Bolivia, is another conservative. And then we've talked a lot about Javier Milei from Argentina, who's been, a big Trump ally, and Trump helped him win some local elections to keep in power. So look at a map of South America, and you're talking about Chile and Argentina and Bolivia and Honduras. You're starting to fill in the picture with American supporting leaders. We're at war. It's a world war, and it's between us and China, and their allies and our allies. Just know that and tell other people about that, because they don't know. They think China's okay, and they're just an economic, competitor. Yeah, right. Okay. And then let's talk Greenland. Trump has been talking Greenland since January. And remember, Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Jr. went to Greenland. And Greenland's this huge, really big. Go look at a map. Greenland is huge landmass-wise. It's all covered in ice. They only have 64,000 people in the place, and they're a Danish-controlled territory. Trump wants it for national defense and for their rare earth minerals and stuff. I wouldn't bet against him, and he just took this move, which I'm going to go, whoa, what did he do? President Trump names Louisiana governor, the governor of Louisiana, as special envoy to Greenland in surprise appointment. President Donald Trump, announced this department of a dual role on Sunday evening on Truth Social. He emphasized Greenland's critical role in U.S. national security. Quote, Jeff understands how essential Greenland is to our national security and will strongly advance our country's interests for the safety, security, and survival of our allies and indeed the world, Trump wrote in his post. Whether Landry will step down from his position as governor of Louisiana or attempt to balance both roles simultaneously remains unknown. Neither the White House nor Landry provided any clarity, when this was made. But the reality, because he's not ambassador, he's a special envoy, he can do both. It's just he has to take some trips up there. But interesting. Trump is like a dog with a bone. He ain't letting this go, is he? And I think it's kind of exciting. Again, data centers, right? They got hydropower from like Yellowstone Park with the geysers, right? Thermal heated water they could have energy plants, and the whole thing with these data centers is cooling. And you got all this ice in Greenland. Great place to put data centers. I don't know. Maybe it's all part of the plan. We'll see. But Trump is on offense. He's not playing defense. He's attacking. And this was just like a out of the blue type thing where Trump calls the New York Times a national security threat that must be stopped. That's a pretty serious statement. President Donald Trump said Tuesday that the New York Times is a national security threat. He made the comments in an early morning Truth Social post accusing the paper of printing false articles. Duh. Like when was that not true? Trump has long fought with the paper and filed a massive defamation suit against them early this year, accusing the newspaper of lying about him. That suit, what I think was for $15 billion. That's still being gone. The failing New York Times and their lies and purposeful misrepresentations is a serious threat to the national security of our nation. Their radical left, unhinged behavior, write fake articles and opinions of never in a never-ending way must be dealt with and stopped. They are a true enemy of the people. So I don't know where this goes. I don't know where this goes. If indeed this year ends up with a real war in the streets, an insurrection, one of the mayors in Minneapolis said that the Somalis will start killing ICE agents if they don't stop deporting them. Oh, you think so? You want to see what the 101st Airborne looks like, pal? Yeah, and so is that coming? And when that comes, will he do what Lincoln did? See, people forget this. Lincoln arrested the publishers of all the major papers who criticized the North fighting the South in the Civil War. I don't know if it's a precursor to that, but I got news for you. What they're doing is a national security risk, and it isn't journalism. It's propaganda, and we shouldn't allow it. Again, the Constitution allows freedom of the press. This isn't the press. They can't hide behind that. When you provably print lies, that's not protected press. That's propaganda. So we'll see how this plays out. And then, of course, the propaganda is what? The Epstein files. We don't want you to know that Trump's doing a great job with the economy. We're going to talk about that, right? With inflation and GDP and all that. So Epstein. Trump's hiding the Epstein files because he's a rapist and a pedophile, right? They won't release this stuff because Trump's trying to hide. All lies, total lies, absolute. Even the New York Times admitted it's all lies. And by the way, they found 1 million more documents. The New York, I guess it was the Special Investigations Force, whatever, that handled the Epstein files in New York City, found 1 million documents. I'm driving with Nan when I heard this story, and I'm trying to imagine what the hell does 1 million documents look like? How big of a bill? How many documents are in my gray filing cabinets in my office? I'm guessing maybe a few thousand in one filing cabinet. How many filing cabinets do you need for 1 million that they just found it? They didn't know where they were all these years, right? It's insanity. And it's all Bill Clinton in every picture and all these other Dems. It's not Trump at all, okay? So Democratic push for Epstein files boomerangs with Clinton featured prominently throughout. What a surprise. We didn't know that, right? Democrats push for the release of documents surrounding convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein through a House vote appears to have backfired, as the disclosures intended to scrutinize Team Trump have instead spotlighted their own party's connections, including former business Bill Clinton's prominent mention in salacious photos. Let's see. The boomerang also hit Virgin Island Democrat delegate Stacey Plaskett in a swath of 2019 text exchanges with Epstein, where they were revealed during a congressional hearing on Trump, in which Epstein appeared to guide her questions, prompting Republicans to highlight Democratic hypocrisy. Adding to the headaches for Democrats, the fact that the most recent tranche of formally classified documents is being revealed that the first known opportunity to investigate and possibly charge Epstein with child pornography was during Bill Clinton's time in office, but his Department of Justice declined to proceed. I wonder why that was. DOJ? I wonder why that was. The latest tranche from Friday reveals a previously unacknowledged 1996 complaint to the Federal Bureau of Investigation alleging that Epstein possessed and distributed child pornography filed by Maria Farmer, an artist who worked for Epstein in the 1990s. Farmer claimed that Epstein stole nude photos she had taken of her underage sisters, aged 12 and 16, for her artwork, which he allegedly sold or distributed. The complaint, which also described explicit images of children in Epstein's home and a modeling book of child pornography kept in his safe, was filed during Clinton's presidency, was not pursued by the FBI DOJ at the time, allowing Epstein's activities to continue unchecked for nearly a decade until the 2005 Palm Beach police investigation began. I know there's statutes of limitations. I know that. But the people in the FBI and DOJ who did this need to be held accountable. Maybe they can be sued personally by the families whose children were damaged because they didn't stop Epstein or Clinton or the rest of these creeps when they could have. This story's not over, but it's not going to have the ending that the Dems thought it was going to have. But it is a distraction, and that's why you don't see me covering it a lot, and it's not always in the first half of the show, because it's not the story, kids. It's not the story. So I posted this, and I want you to take action. This is a direct ask. I said, Congress makes another run at repealing Section 230 protection for big tech. I posted this, I think, on Friday. You can go find it at wethepeopleconvention.org. You can share it, and there's a link there that says, click here to tell Congress to do this. We've been threatening this forever. Now, the big tech guys will tell you, you don't want to repeal this. You'll destroy Facebook and Google and the internet, because they gave this exemption to the big tech guys that no other company has. Every other corporation and industry in the U.S. can be sued by you if they harm you, except internet companies. And the whole deal was, the internet will never take off because they don't want to be responsible for the discussion that we had on X about Vivek Ramaswamy, where people are calling people names and they're saying things that are just factually untrue and all that, okay? They don't want to have to control that. They want to just let people destroy you and say, well, I can't help you. That's not my fault. But it's not just that. What they did is during the Clinton time, the Obama time and the Trump first term and the Biden era, they censored us. They picked how they would moderate content. Not fairly, not by saying, okay, everybody can say what they want, or, only you can say, the COVID shots are great, but if you say take ivermectin, whoop, you're off, right? This is why Section 230 needs to be repealed. They need to be held responsible. And this is being done. A proposal in the U.S. Senate titled Sunset Section 230 Act seems to dismantle one of the core protections that has shaped the modern internet. Put forward by Lindsey Graham with bipartisan backing from Senators Dick Durbin, Josh Hawley, and Amy Klobuchar and Richard Blumenthal, the bill will repeal Section 230 of the Communications Act, a provision that has for nearly 30 years shielded online platforms for liability for the action of their users. And you can click the link to read their bill. Under the plan, Section 230 will be fully repealed 2 years after the bill's passage. The current statute stops courts from holding online platforms legally responsible as the publishers of materials shared by their users. You can hear both sides of the story. I use a story from a company that's called Reclaim the Net. And I know that the big tech firms fund Reclaim the Net, but the Reclaim the Net website, reclaimthenet.com, has lots of really interesting stories about AI and your iPhone and your TV. And it's really a good site, but it's totally in the bag for letting big tech do whatever the hell they want for the most part. Okay, but if they're smart people, it's worth your reading. Take a minute to go click on the link and just write to your congressman and your senator mostly and say, we want you to repeal Section 230. That's my position. If you disagree, write to me at tomz@wethepeopleconvention.org or info@wethepeopleconvention.org and tell me about it, okay? Because, we've been fighting these fights. On this podcast, even if you're not internet savvy or AI savvy or tech savvy, I try to help you see how it affects your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, and it does. Okay, this Section 230 sure as heck, because we were banned from everything. we're now on, Gab, MeWe, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Getter, just Rumble, all these things. But we were banned until Trump won re-election. We weren't on YouTube for like 10 years. 10 years, why? Oh, because I don't have a right to say what I'm saying to you in this podcast. Well, who said that? And why can't I sue YouTube for censoring me illegal? Don't I have rights? When they let lefties say whatever they want? See, this is what Section 230 is about. And this is what I've been arguing about with getting children off of off of social media. We've been fighting, and we want in Australia, I covered the story about Australia, just banned anyone 16 and under from having social media. Get a frickin' flip phone, okay? Where you can still call your parents, but you can't visit websites. You can't send pictures. Old flip phones are really cheap. You can get them for your kids. They're like $6 a month on your phone bill, okay? We need to do that. But one of the things that has been done is this, how the phone ban saved high school. Since the bell-to-bell device lockup, teens have rediscovered the simple pleasures of conversation and poker, okay? So a lot of schools, and in Ohio, they passed laws that said when you're in school, you can't have your phone. And so they have these devices, these bags, that when you come to school, you put your phone in this bag and lock it up and put it in your locker, and you can't access it till school's over. That's helpful, as I'm going to prove to you right now. That's made a big difference. It's nowhere near enough. It's nowhere near enough, because what you're going to hear in this story, just multiply that by factors of 10 of how not having the phone and social media would change your life outside of school, okay? That's what we're fighting for. But this story is important. When New York State banned phones in public schools from bell to bell this last September, the goal, according to the ban's champion, the governor of New York, was undistracted learning. But within weeks of the great phone lockup, teachers began to notice an incidental and arguably even more compelling benefit. How stupid are you to think that locking up the phones would only make, make it better for learning? How could you not understand it's a social device? But then Hochul, the governor of New York's a moron. Okay, so they were surprised. The teens were talking to one another as if they were in a Brat Pack movie. Sure, there's grumbling and some burner phones and scrolling in the bathroom. At one high school, an entrepreneur senior even bought a pouch unlocking magnet on Amazon and tried to charge classmates $1 for breaking their phones out of the bags. But generally, with phones off limits, the atmosphere feels different. There's a pleasant buzz in the lunchroom, chatter in the hallways, and an alphabet of new analog hobbies popping up just about everywhere. We've had a lot more school spirit, says Ramaswamy, a senior at New Heights Academy Charter School in Harlem. People are more willing to do stuff. Oh, who would have thought it? Can't believe it. What stuff are they doing? At many schools, teachers have made cards, board games, and sports equipment available during free time, and the kids have designed to use them. Kevin Casado, a coach and teacher at Math and Engineering and Science Academy in Brunswick, New York, hands out volleyballs every lunch break. He says a lot more kids are playing this year than last year. It's no net open space, forming their own circles of 10 or 12 kids, hitting it up to each other, an equal number of girls and boys. Okay? So basically, they started to relearn their social skills. And I'll link this article, okay? I'll link it on our website on the podcast page so you can share it and read it. But this is what's going to happen when the kids can't have a cell phone or a smartphone with internet access. They're going to ride their bikes. They're going to play in the park. They're going to go outside. They're going to get the hell out of their basement. But more importantly, they're going to learn the most important things for humans, how to interact with other humans. Go to WeThePeopleConvention.org. Search on Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, H-A-I-D-T. You'll see Jonathan Haidt videos with Jordan Peterson. His own videos are how to get your state to pass these laws. You have to fight for this. Our very nation's future depends on it. We have damaged 2 generations of kids by letting tech, big tech, make trillions of dollars using our children, exploiting them, and literally killing them. Killing them. Suicides from bullying. We just had a story last week about the thing I talked about, fake nudes, where the boys in a high school take a picture of their favorite girl in school and use software to make it nude and then share it with everybody. Yeah, big tech did that. What happened to them? Oh, Section 230, you can't sue them for that. Oh, really? Yeah, maybe you got to write your senator about that. Maybe. Our kids' very lives are at stake. Our nation's very future is at stake, because if you can't communicate, if you don't understand how to fit in, how to play as a team sports, how to play cards, how to be a human, you're not going to be human. You're going to be in your basement, depressed and suicidal, and being preyed on in the age of AI. You and I can make a difference. Let's make that difference. Act. Share that story. Okay? And then support these efforts in your community. All right, got a bunch of quick hitters to wrap up the podcast. We'll finish a little early this week, as I said, but that's okay. This was great news. U.S. economy grows by 4.3% in the third quarter. That's an AI-generated image, by the way, from Grok, which was pretty slick. And I do note, you'll see in the bottom of it, it says AI-generated image, so I'm not lying to you or fooling you, but I could never draw that image. The U.S. economy grew at a much greater than expected pace in the third quarter, boosted by strong consumer spending. A delayed report released Tuesday showed U.S. gross domestic product, a sum of all goods and services produced in the sprawling U.S. economy, expanded by 4.3% in the July to September period, the Commerce Department said in an initial reading of third quarter growth. Economists polled by the Dow Jones expected a 3.2% gain. They were only off by 40%. And guess what? They were talking on Larry Kudlow's show that 92% of the economists have gotten everything wrong about the Trump economy. Everything wrong about tariffs raising prices, about inflation, which is down to 2.7%, about GDP. They said it'd be 3.2, it's 4.3. That's a big deal. And Kudlow and the guys on Fox Business are predicting 5% GDP growth next year. You know what that means? That means more money for everybody. And I said in my post of this on X, congratulations, America, because this is your output. This is you going to work every day, whether you're a waitress or you're an IT guy or you're an insurance salesman or a beautician. You contribute to GDP. This is what makes America great. It's called capitalism. And it's going to save us from the idiots, socialist communists who've tried to destroy our country, and from morons like Mondami, who's going to destroy New York while the rest of the United States flourishes. Great job, America. I love it. This was another big story, and we've touched upon this because Bongino and Kash Patel have said this, but now the statistics are out. This is huge. Murders in the USA set for largest one-year drop on record. But it's not just murders. And the number of murders in the U.S. is on track for its largest one-year drop ever. Using the real-time crime index that compared data from 570 law enforcement agencies, meaning counties and cities and states and all that, Asher reports a nearly 20% decline in murders in 2025, the same period in 2022. The database includes manslaughter, self-defense, and negligence or accidental killings. These are just actual murders. The drop in crime in 2025 constitutes a trend that began in 2023, accelerated in 2024, and became historic in 2025. A roughly 20% drop in murders in 2025 is suggested by the current data would be the largest by far decline ever recorded. Okay? So I'm going to show you this chart because it's not just murders. Here's this chart, and if you guys are watching or listening on the radio, I'll read some of this for you while the rest of you guys can see it on your computer or phone. So this is, it's got on one side, what's the crime? Murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, and motor vehicle theft. And then it says, how far is it up or down in cities of 50,000 to 100,000? Cities from 100,000 to 250,000, cities from 250,000 to 1 million, cities of 1 million plus, and counties of 100,000. The long and short is, folks, look at this chart. Things are down bigly, as Trump would say, right? In cities of 50,000 to 100,000, murders are down 24.2%, rape down 8%, robbery 19.2%, aggravated assault down 8%, burglary is down 20%, theft down 10.8%, motor vehicle theft down 25.7%. Go to the other extreme, cities of 1 million, murders down 19.8%, rape down 12.6%, robbery 19.8%, aggravated assault 10.4%. Burglaries 14.2%, theft 8.6%, motor vehicle 26.5%. This story will be linked on our podcast page, and you need to share it. Because what did Trump run on? Making America safe again, supporting law enforcement. You've heard the numbers from Bongino and Akash Patel. I mean, my goodness gracious, they've recovered 32,000, trafficked children. They've arrested tens of thousands of criminals. And as we know, and they ignore, and the left knows it and doesn't care. And that is what? Like 8% of the criminals commit like 80% of the crimes. I may not have those numbers exact, but it's a big deal. 8% of the criminals commit half the crimes, whatever it is. So if you take 8% of them off the streets, what happens to your city? What happens to your community? It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, when Trump says make America great again, you think being able to walk out in your streets is a way to make America great again? You think being able to drive your car without getting carjacked, it might be great again? To think you might be able to not have your house broken into? Wow, folks. Celebrate this. Share it. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little challenge. Go to this article on our website in the podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org. You'll see it linked. Print it out and have it with you during the New Year's holiday and just pass it around. Say, hey, look at this article I found. Or just print out this chart, okay? And share it. And I'll bet you nobody you share it with had a clue. That's how we win the narrative war. That's how we get people to understand what a difference Trump is making. You got to share it. You got to share it, okay? I also want to tell you that, Kash Patel announced that they're going to close the FBI building. And I'm loving this. He announced it Friday night. He announces the permanent closure of the J. Edgar Hoover FBI building. He said they're going to move. The FBI scrapped a nearly $5 billion proposal. Remember Christopher Wray and those guys? They wanted to build a palace to show that the deep state runs this city. And by closing down the Hoover building, you're basically saying this shows you they're dead. They're moving to the Reagan building. The FBI scrapped a nearly $5 billion proposal to construct a new building that would have not opened until 2035. Instead, the Bureau will recloak most headquarters staff to the existing Ronald Reagan building and the International Trade Center in Washington, D.C., Patel said. After more than 20 years of failed attempts, we finalized a plan to permanently close the FBI's Hoover headquarters and move the workforce into a safe, modern facility. Working directly with President Trump and Congress, we accomplished what no one else could. Patel said the move would save billions of dollars and noted that key safety and infrastructure upgrades are already underway in the Reagan building. Once the renovations are complete, the majority of FBI headquarters employees will move into the building. He said, that they have 38,000 employees when they're fully staffed in the FBI nationwide. 11,000 of them were in Washington. Washington doesn't have 1/3 of the crime, does it? So what he's going to do is he's going to push a lot of them, like 1,500 originally, out into your communities to help sheriffs and local police departments end crime. Isn't that what you and I pay for? Isn't that what they're supposed to do? No. We're going to build a $5 billion monument to Christopher Wray and Jim Comey and J. Edgar Hoover and these clowns, right? No, we're not. That's what I voted for. This story is another good news story. Awesome. Retirement accounts roared back in 2025 after punishing losses during Biden years, a study said. What is this about? Well, I know what's about for Nan and I. I know what's happened to our IRA. I hope it's happened to yours. After 4 bruising years in which inflation and declining bond markets slammed Americans' nest eggs, retirement accounts made a big comeback in 2025, regaining much of what was lost while feeling how deeply policy shifts can hit workers' savings. An average 401k balance jumped about $23,200 or 16.9% from the first quarter to the third quarter of 2025. After adjusting for inflation, that gain still comes in roughly at $20,700 per retiree or 15.1%. The rebound followed a painful stretch from the first quarter of 21 to the first quarter of 25 when the average 401 barely rose at all and actually fell sharply after inflation, the study found. What changed this year was a big slowdown in inflation and a real turnaround in the bond market. The previous 1-2 punch that had knocked out people's retirement accounts now turned into a 1-2 blessing, if you will, said Antonelli, who told the Post. I don't know his name. I'll find the rest of his name. Antonelli credited President Trump's policies for the turnaround, saying, "This is a total reversal as the Trump administration unleashed Doge and reduced government spending and therefore borrowing as they engaged in tax and regulatory reform as they promote pro-energy policies." Trump, a Republican who has focused on 401k accounts throughout his term in office, signed an executive order in August that would make it easier to include alternate assets like cryptocurrencies and real estate in retirement plans. I didn't know about that. I'll have to look into that. Under former President Joe Biden, a Democrat, the cumulative inflation ran 21.2% over 4 years, folks. Because remember, inflation is real. Once the price goes up, it usually doesn't go out. So when they had 9.2% inflation in 1 year, they also had 5% or more in 3 other years. 21% inflation in 1 4-year period. And people want to blame Trump for the economy? Well, you just need to talk to your fellow seniors because they don't want to give Trump any credit for what's happened to their retirement. But that's how you make America great again. That's how you make affordability, crush it and make it affordable. That's what Trump did. You need to give him credit. Okay? So, a couple more things, and we'll wrap up the podcast. In our podcast video section, WeThePeopleConvention.org, under videos, the Vivek Ramaswamy video was there, but I also posted J.D. Vance's keynote speech at the AMFEST last weekend. And I did that because it was kind of a setup for what to expect in 2026. It was very, forward-looking, and it's worth watching. It's about 30 minutes, 38 minutes maybe, and so that's there for you to review because it's showtime now. It's time. We're going to rest up through the new year, and then it's showtime. And President Trump is certainly gearing up. He announced that there's going to do a 50-state tour to celebrate America's 250th birthday. The all-American event includes a Freedom Village, live productions, and road trip-style vlog by the tour's mascot, Liberty the Beagle. This is also going to have to do with the midterms, the 2026. It's our 250th anniversary, and making people feel good about America and feel good about President Trump and his policies, getting more in your paycheck, getting a bigger tax return, having better returns in your IRA, that's what's got to win it for us. That's what's got to win it in 2026. But this is going to be special. Get fired up. I know that I really celebrated, the centennial, 1776 and stuff. And I want you to get fired up about participating and doing things in your local community for our 250th anniversary. This is a big deal, to quote Joe Biden without the foul language when he said that to Obama about Obamacare. Yeah, big deal, Joe. President Trump has announced the U.S. 250th Freedom Tour To celebrate the United States' 250th birthday, the tour, inspired by post-World War II friendship and Mercury trains, will visit 50 states in 50 weeks. I don't know about post-World War II friendship and Mercy trains. We'll have to look that up. To help carry out these existing exciting plans, we've created a new public-private partnership. It's called Freedom 250, Trump announced on a YouTube video on December 18th. The coast-to-coast free train tours The coast-to-coast free tours aim to celebrate the patriotism, pride, and pioneering spirit of America and lay the groundwork for the next 250 years. The tour will be led by Freedom 250, a nonpartisan organization that partnered with the White House Task Force 250, federal agencies, and the America 250 Commission. This will be a time like you've never had in your life, Trump said. It will kick off in Mesquite, Nevada on January 9th, 2026. That's 2 weeks away, with free concerts by Shenandoah and Natasha Owens and a fireworks display. Whether in a rural town or a major city, this celebration is coming to you, the tour website reads. The All-American event includes a Freedom Village, live productions, and a road trip-style vlog for the tour's mascot, Liberty the Beagle. This is an opportunity to share the remarkable story of America, honor our heroes, celebrate the innovation, creativity, and resilience of the American people, Executive Tour Director Tony Griffith said. From our farmers and ranchers to the Space Coast and the entertainment industry, everyone will have an opportunity to participate in this historic tour. The tour is just one of the many large-scale events Trump has planned for the United States' 250th anniversary. In the summer, the Capitol will host a Great American State Fair on the National Mall, featuring pavilions from all 50 states. I love that. That's going to be great. You should plan, on going to see that. That's going to be awesome. It's kind of like a World's Fair or a U.S. States Fair. You'll never see anything like it, Trump said. The president also announced Patriot Games, which will take place in the fall of next year. One man and woman from each state and their territory will compete in a series of athletic events. Trump confirmed that there will be no male athletes competing against women. Trump also said he plans to build the National Garden of American Heroes and a triumphal arch in Washington similar to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. It's going to be wild. It's going to be fun. Holy cow, fun. You mean we could actually have fun as a country? You mean we could actually spend some time doing things that are fun, talking about our ancestors, you heritage Americans, right? And celebrating our victories and our innovation instead of nitpicking every single thing, instead of arguing with each other incessantly on social media? We're going to actually have fun? Yeah, we're going to have fun. I'm going to have fun. We're going to bring you fun on this podcast. I commit to that. You should commit that you're going to spend a lot more time celebrating our 250th anniversary than fighting with fellow conservatives about stupid things. Okay? About stupid things. Let's focus on making America great again, and we do that by winning. We also do that by fulfilling Charlie Kirk's mission, by completing America's spiritual revival. And I think a lot of people were doing that this Christmas at church and things. But it's just, we've got to get back to basics. What's right and wrong, right? What's good and evil. And that's what we're doing. That's this show is doing. So we want to thank you for watching this podcast. We ask you to tell other people about it. If you have questions, suggestions for stories, if you want to challenge me on something, write to me at info@wethepeopleconvention.org. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. We read your emails. Half the stories in this podcast come from you. It's your podcast. We just produce it and present it. Okay? And I want to, again, ask you to send some prayers, some special prayers my way for the next week or 10 days, because I think something really big is about to break. And I'm hoping it does. And if it doesn't, I'll accept what God's will is. But it's pretty exciting. And I'll let you know about it, whether it happens or not. If it doesn't, I'll let you know. And if it does, I'll sure as heck let you know, because it's a big deal. Okay? All right. We're going to wrap up our podcast for this week. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy the rest of the holiday. Lots of incredible football today. New Year's Day is going to be awesome. Ohio State plays on New Year's Eve. Enjoy family and friends. If you're in the storms out in California, We're praying for you guys. We hope you're going to be okay. Help each other. Neighbors helping each other. But I know one thing, Trump's FEMA will be there helping you, unlike Biden's FEMA in North Carolina. In New York and New England with the snow, I hope it goes well there. I hope you can get through it. I hope it'll be less than they predict. But do what you can to be happy, to love each other, to celebrate the fact that you're here, that you had a Christmas together, that you're going to have another new year. Be happy, warriors. Celebrate that you're the luckiest person in the world because you are here in the greatest country ever. Okay? You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. May God bless you, and may he continue to bless this great country into the new year. We'll see you next week.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight